Hello and welcome. All right, let's just jump right into this because what we're unpacking today is a truly radical theory about the history of our planet. Seriously, it's a story that's going to challenge pretty much everything you think you know about geology, biology, even our own origins. So forget slow and steady. This is a biography of absolute chaos.
And it all kicks off with this really mind-bending question. I mean, we've all heard the idea that life might have come to Earth from space, right? Panspermia. But what if? What if we've had it completely backwards this whole time? What if life, biological stuff like diatoms that we find in asteroids, was actually blasted from Earth, out into space? Now, to even start to answer a question like that, we have to try and imagine a version of our planet that is just totally alien to the world we live on now. A planet that, this theory claims, played by a completely different set of rules. So, here's the roadmap for this incredible story. We're going to start with that riddle from space, then explore this ancient Earth. We'll witness a cataclysmic rupture, see how water remade the entire world, uncover a totally different story for humanity, and finally, we'll look at a major challenge to how we measure time itself. Okay, first up, this world before the break. I want you to try and picture a planet of giants, a place that existed under a sky that we would find completely unrecognizable today. The differences that this theory puts forward are just staggering. We're talking about an atmosphere maybe twice as dense as ours, oxygen levels so high they'd make us feel like superheroes, and lower surface gravity. And this isn't just a random list, It's all connected. You throw in a single supercontinent and no seasons at all, and what you get is basically a perfect global greenhouse. Let's just focus on that oxygen for a second, because this is huge. Right now, we're breathing air that's about 21% oxygen. This framework suggests it used to be as high as 35%. That one factor alone, according to this source, changes every single rule of biology. And the consequence of those new rules was just scale. In a world with lower gravity, thicker air, and way more oxygen, life just got bigger, a lot bigger. Sauropods could weigh 100 tons. A creature like Quetzalcoatlus, with its massive 11-meter wingspan, could actually fly. And humans, protected by a much stronger magnetic field from cosmic rays, the theory says they could live for centuries. But a world like that, it couldn't last. All of those conditions were building toward one single, catastrophic moment. The rupture event. The day the Earth's crust literally cracked wide open. So how in the world does that even happen? Well, the theory uses this really simple but powerful analogy. Think about a paperclip. You bend it once, it's fine. But if you bend it back and forth and back and forth, eventually it just snaps. The idea here is that the moon's gravity was doing that to the Earth's crust, flexing it over and over with every single orbit for centuries until it just got weaker and weaker. And when that crust finally failed, it broke. And it broke into a massive pressurized reservoir of something called supercritical water trapped below. The energy that was unleashed is, well, it's just a mind-boggling number. To put that number into perspective, think of the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. Now imagine 246 of those asteroids hitting the Earth at the exact same time. That's the kind of energy we're talking about. This wasn't an attack from space. This was the planet detonating from the inside out. And that detonation kicked off an aftermath that completely remade our planet, using water as its tool. According to this theory, Earth was basically re-engineered, not over millions of years, but in a matter of days. And this gets us right back to that first crazy question. That water didn't just flood the surface. It exploded outwards in a hypersonic jet. And anything caught in that blast, rock, water, even tiny living things, got shot into space at up to 8 times the speed needed to escape Earth's gravity. Life from our planet was literally ejected into the solar system. The speed of all this is just breathtaking to think about. Within hours, the entire sky falls as rain. Within days, whole continents are sliding across the globe at meters per second, a process this theory calls hydroplaning, ripping open the Atlantic Ocean. The planet's crust even slumps inward, which actually speeds up Earth's rotation, changing the length of our year forever. So this idea completely rewrites the fossil record. The Cambrian explosion wasn't a sudden burst of evolution. It was just the heaviest, shelly creatures getting buried first in the floodwaters.
Those weird fossils of trees standing upright through rock layers supposedly millions of years old? Well, maybe it proves the layers were all laid down at once super fast. And finding soft, flexible tissue in dinosaur bones? The theory says that's chemically impossible after 65 million years, but maybe totally possible if it was only a few thousand years ago.
Okay, so in the middle of all this planetary chaos, what happened to people? Well, according to this theory, the survivors didn't start from scratch. It was a new beginning, yeah, but one built on remembering what they'd lost, not inventing civilization all over again.
The theory points to ancient texts as holding clues, like this line from Genesis. It talks about a man named Peleg and says that during his lifetime, the earth was divided. So the question is that just a nice metaphor, or could it be a literal, handed-down memory of the continents physically splitting apart?
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. The source proposes there were two human family lines before the flood. You had the line of Seth, which led to Noah and the survivors, but then you had the line of Cain, who were pushed out into these remote, high-altitude regions. And the theory suggests that after generations of isolation in that cold, harsh environment, this group developed the unique physical traits that we now identify as Neanderthal and Denisovan.
If that's true, it reframes the entire story of early humans. When the flood survivors eventually met these people, it wasn't some kind of first contact between different species. It was a family reunion. Two branches of humanity, torn apart by a global cataclysm, finally finding each other again.
And all of this, every single piece we've talked about, builds to the theory's biggest challenge to modern science. It's basically a direct assault on the geological clock itself. So, here's the argument in a nutshell. Radiometric dating, the way we tell how old rocks are, it relies on a couple of key assumptions. This theory claims the flood broke all of them. First, it assumes you know what the rock was made of when it started. But how can you, when everything was violently churned together in a global flood? And second, it assumes a closed system. But when the whole planet was flushed with supercritical water acting like a universal solvent, well, nothing was closed. Everything was contaminated. Radiocarbon dating gets called out specifically. The argument is, 1, the pre-flood world was so full of life, so much more carbon in the system, that the amount of carbon-14 was naturally diluted. That makes everything from that era look way older than it is. And 2, the stronger magnetic field meant fewer cosmic rays got through to even create carbon-14 in the first place. Both of those things would just radically screw up the clock. And this all leads to the theory's final, powerful conclusion. The claim isn't that our science is wrong, it's that our interpretation of the evidence has been wrong. That ancient texts like the Bible, maybe they weren't myths. Maybe they were just early. Maybe they were precise records of an event so catastrophic, it took us thousands of years to finally develop the science that could even begin to understand it. So we're left with this question. Is this a revolutionary framework that actually ties together geology, biology, and ancient history into one cohesive story? Or is it just a really compelling, incredibly detailed work of fiction? That, as always, is something for you to decide. Thanks for joining us.